Scramble, released in 1982 for the almighty VECTREX Arcade System. And yes, we are contractually obligated to call it the almighty VECTREX Arcade System. Why? Doesn't matter. This is Scramble, the very first Konami space shooter thing in the Scramble, Super Cobra, Gradius, Grabius, Nemesis, Life Force, Salamander, Solar Assault, whatever, Super Mega Shmup series thing. I may have missed a name or two. I may also not care. Actually, scratch that. I definitely don't care. Anyways. In Scramble, you control a little ship who must make your way over to the enemy base by traversing 6 sectors of enemies, obstacles, and hard turns, all the while taking out fuel tanks to restore your ever-dwindling supply of fuel. Because running out of fuel in Scramble is like crashing. You die. So it's almost like a side-scrolling river raid, except you're not raiding any rivers, but rather caverns and enemy strongholds with targets that will fire back. Once you reach the final area and bomb your target, you'll loop back to the first area where everything is a little harder. The gameplay is fairly straightforward. You move your ship with the stick, one button shoots your guns and the other drops your bombs on ground targets. The bombs have a bit of an arc to them, so you have to anticipate where they might hit in order to use these effectively, especially if you're aiming at fuel tanks to replenish some of that healthy fuel that you'll need to survive. The game features 3 difficulty settings, or games as they're called, which alters various characteristics such as fuel consumption and enemy missile trajectory. Scramble has seen numerous conversions to various home video game formats over the years, and the VECTREX version is perhaps one of the better ones for its day at least, staying relatively true to the arcade original's level layout and progression. The gameplay as a whole is fairly simplistic but also quite challenging, with dedicated levels featuring unique challenges for the player to overcome, which was quite unique for a shooter-type game back in the day. Control is simple, solid, and responsive. Moving the ship around works relatively well. I have noticed that your ship sometimes has a bit of a generous hitbox, as sometimes I'll braze a surface or whatever the case may be and somehow not get killed. It's not often that it happens, and it's not something worth tempting fate, but I just thought I'd mention it. I kind of wish anyways, whatever. Scramble on the VECTREX does a fine enough job of converting the originally raster visuals of the arcade version into a vector-based format. Even without all the colors or finer details, you could sort of make out where everything is supposed to be, and they do somewhat resemble the original game objects. Scrolling's fairly smooth, there's virtually no slowdown that occurs, or at least none that I've encountered, which is shocking to a degree that at some point the autofocus on the camera loses its shit and everything starts becoming blurry, and just when I achieved my crowning moment in Scramble. Stupid camera. Sounds fine. You have the opening notes of William Tell to greet you on the title and a bunch of sound effects that sort of resemble the arcade sounds. Whether that's a good thing or not is entirely up to you, and admittedly, Scramble's sound did grate a bit in the arcades and this isn't really that much better, but other than that, it's fine, I guess, I suppose. Overall, Scramble on VECTREX is a fine game. Hell, Scramble in most formats is a fine game and is pretty much the granddaddy of all them Konami space shooters people seem to like. But the VECTREX version nails that arcade experience in its own way and creates a perfectly playable and outright superb edition of Scramble, which happens to be a worthy addition to any VECTREX library. Otherwise, don't worry about it. There are plenty of other ways to play Scramble, including a certain arcade anniversary collection from Konami that came out a few years ago that happened to feature that very game. Go figure. Oh, I'm sure Hamster has that as a single release if you want to go for that instead, so have fun.